Hello, welcome to Verbling. I am teacher Oakley, and for the next hour we are going to be looking at adverbs of frequency. I'm also going to look at adverbs of degree to just a little bit. We're going to be looking at concentrating mostly on adverbs of frequency and how they're used in sentence structure. And then we're going to do quite a bit of practice speaking using adverbs of frequency. Okay, pretty straightforward lesson, really. Welcome to the class.
Hi, teacher.
Hi, what is your name?
I'm Emily.
Okay, one more time, please. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
What is your name again?
Hmm?
What is your name again? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Oh, I'm Emily.
Emily.
Oh,
Emily.
yes.
Emily. Okay, very good. Where are you from, Emily?
I'm from China.
Okay, very good. Welcome to the class.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. And also, hello, Heidi.
Hello, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, Heidi. I see you have updated your avatar to the springtime.
Yes, Spring Kitty.
Spring Kitty.
Yeah. Which chat box will you use? Barbering or group chat?
I guess we'll jump over. That's a good question. I guess we'll jump over to the group chat. I guess it makes more sense to do that. Okay. So for everyone and anyone who joins the class, I'll probably mention it again as more people join. Anyway, I like the new avatar, Heidi. Yay! Spring is coming. Hooray!
Yes, yes.
Yay! Okay. All right. I'd also like to welcome Oscar. Hello, Oscar.
Hello, Oakley.
Hi. How are you today?
Fine. And you?
I'm doing okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, Javier. What's new?
Hi, Oakley. How are you being?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Thanks.
Good.
Always a pleasure to have you in the class. Cesar is also with us. Hello, Cesar.
Hello, teacher.
Hi there. Welcome.
Thank you.
And oh my goodness, really? Are you serious? Is it MacGyver?
Yep, that's it.
Really?
Hi, teacher.
Okay, now, is that really your name? Or
Yes, yeah. Yes,
It is?
it's my name. Yes,
Really?
it is. Yes. My father is a little crazy, I think.
Are you familiar with the television show from, I think,
Yeah.
the 80s? You are? Okay. MacGyver. Interesting. MacGyver, that's a really cool name. I mean, my name is Oakley, so I also have a very strange name.
Yeah.
Very, extremely rare, even in English-speaking countries. But interesting, his name. I just have to share this with the class, if you don't mind. MacGyver was a television show, and he was a guy who he was able to construct the most amazing devices from very basic materials. So he could, he would get in adventures like a spy show, but he would escape by using some bamboo poles, a rubber band, and a piece of cork, and he would build a hang glider and fly away from the villain. Yeah. I'm sharing this because this has entered the American lexicon. This is now a word. If you MacGyver something as a verb, you MacGyver something, you're able to fix it using not really the proper tools, but using other materials.
Yeah, I didn't know it.
Really? Well, it's
Yes.
true. People of my generation, at least, will use this as a verb.
Yeah, yep. Cool, very cool. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it is cool. Okay. All right. Nice to meet you and nice to have you aboard. Richard Dean Anderson. Oh, wow, Oscar, you're good. You're good. Wow. He even knows the actor. Okay. I wouldn't know that. Okay. Some others have joined us here. Hello, Jose.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine, very fine.
Okay. Welcome to the class. Hello, Claudio.
Hi, Oakley. How are
Hey.
you?
Good. Doing good. Thank you. Nice to see you again. And great. And our old friend Keiko is with us. Hello, Keiko.
Hello, teacher. Nice to see you again.
As always. My pleasure, actually. Okay, guys, I'm going to be using, because the Verbling chat doesn't really scroll down properly, and since there's a lot of us here today, won't you please all click on the group chat? That is the Google chat box in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. I'll be quite probably using that to add additional information. It's the blue balloon talk box in the left-hand corner of the screen. Okay, we're going to concentrate on adverbs of frequency. I'm also going to a little bit introduce you to adverbs of degree. So I'll do some talking and explaining in the first half of class. The last half of class, you guys are going to be practicing. I'm going to be asking questions, and which force you to answer with using adverbs of frequency. Okay, so I'm going to do a screen share and talk about what these are. First off, give me half a sec here.
Okay.
Okay, adverbs of frequency. They answer the question, how often? Okay, so there's basically like a scale, if you will. How often do you do something, from all the way from the from always on one end, often, frequently, quite often, sometimes. Sometimes, if you notice, is basically kind of in the middle. All right. Occasionally, we have a few for not very often. Okay, you can use negatives, by the way. Often, quite often, not very often. There are others. This isn't the entire list, and frequently also has a counterpart, infrequently, which of course would come on the other end here, with seldom, hardly ever, rarely, infrequently, not often, not very often. All right, so there's different variations here, and the absolutes, of course, on either end, always and never. While I'm thinking of it, just nota bene, additional information. In case any of you students are planning on taking an IELTS exam, this is a type of question that they very often will ask you. How often do you do something? As far as that goes, in the IELTS, answering an IELTS question, and later in the class, when I'm going to be asking all of you guys how often questions, one technique. Now, this seems like a very simple question. How often do you eat a meal? I eat a meal 3 times a day. Seems like a very straightforward answer. But for the purposes of IELTS, and as a matter of fact, so you guys have more practice speaking today, try this technique. Try saying, well, it depends. This kind of forces you to talk about 2 things. Well, how often do you eat meals? Well, it depends. On weekends, I tend to only eat 2 meals a day because I eat a bigger late lunch. This is but during the weekdays, I have to eat breakfast before I go to work, and of course, I'm hungry by the time I get home from work, so I eat 3 meals a day. Later, when you guys are practicing, try to expand your answer. Give you guys some practice speaking English. That's one technique for doing that. The other obvious technique is to explain why you do it with that frequency. Okay, really important, this next part. Adverbs of frequency usually go before the main verb. All right, but not if the main verb is the verb to be. All right, sentence structure, we're talking here. So, for example, I occasionally see them. All right, occasionally being our adverb precedes the verb. However, if you look below that, the next example, she is often late these days. All right, this is the one rule of sentence structure that you have to memorize. You have to know this. Okay, another example, they hardly ever go to the cinema now. I have never tried Korean food. Like that. Okay, it's before. Doesn't matter if this last example is present perfect tense. Notice placement is before the main verb. It comes after the auxiliary or helper verb have. Not before it, but directly before the main verb. Many verb tenses require helper verbs or auxiliary verbs. So this is going to come after this. Okay. Let's see. I am sometime. Okay. Now, don't be confused when you have a continuous tense, because continuous tense uses the verb to be as an auxiliary. All right. It's hard to use adverbs of frequency with continuous tenses anyway, because it doesn't. It's continuous. That shows that you're doing it for a long duration. I was occasionally running for 10 kilometers. It's possible, but still, I was, the verb to be, past tense was, occasionally running. Still, the adverb comes in front of the main verb. Another note. Sometimes, occasionally, and often can go at the beginning or the end of the sentence. They go to the zoo quite often. Quite often, they go to the zoo. Sometimes my parents give me money. My parents give me money sometimes. These particular adverbs, you got to be careful here, because these particular adverbs, I can move them around and it does not change meaning of the sentence. You got to be careful with adverb placement, because sometimes when you move adverbs around, it can change. It totally changes what the sentence is saying. So you have to be careful. In general, putting it in front, this first rule, just try to follow that rule. If your adverb, of course, is meant to modify the verb. Obviously, we use adverbs for different things, different types of adverbs for different things, to modify another adverb or an adjective. But if you're using it for the verb, you really can't go wrong putting it in front of the main verb. However, it's worth noting, sometimes, occasionally, often, these are very, very commonly used. I play tennis occasionally. Occasionally, I play tennis. Okay. All right. These are the basic rules to keep in mind as you're practicing. I do want to just a little extra. This is not exactly the the focus of the class, but since it's here, it's part of this worksheet here. I want to share this with you. How often or how how much? So we call those adverbs of degree. These adverbs are used with adjectives, and very common in spoken English, not so much written English, but very common. And again, I urge anyone taking any standardized English assessment tests, use these. Definitely use these. It is a clear indicator when I'm testing people's speaking skill. This is a very clear and pointed indicator of what level you are, believe it or not. Lower levels do not use these types of adverbs. There's a certain point, intermediate or so, where second language speakers start to use these. So it's something that teachers and scorers on tests really listen for. Okay, anyway. Also, they're kind of scaled. All right. I was a bit bored. I was slightly bored on one end. In the middle, it's quite large, rather, pretty large. And on the extreme end, they were very interesting. They were extremely tired. They were incredibly stupid. They were really bored. Okay. Okay, a bit. Yes, Claudia?
I just have a question about rather.
Please.
I have some difficulty to understand the meaning of the rather. Like, I'd rather to be, or I'd rather like a frequency, like an adverb of frequency.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Rather is a verb, like I'd rather, or it's an adverb of frequency?
Yeah. Well, of course, Claudio, it's going to depend on context, but it's worth noting that you're absolutely correct. It has two completely different functions, right? Usually, okay, Claudio, one clue. If you see rather in conjunction in a sentence with than, T-H-A-N, okay, so you see rather, blah, 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 and then you see than, T-H-A-N, you can pretty much count on the fact that it's a verb form. It means like prefer. All right. If you see rather in front of an adjective, then it's being used as an adverb of degree. So that's kind of what you need to look for, so you can tell, which is which.
Okay.
Okay. Look
and
for
about the pronunciation as well. When sometimes when Americans, or I don't know, some English are speaking fast, they say rather. The pronunciation is not exactly rather, but like another sound that I can't pronounce.
Rather? I'd rather not. I'd rather not.
Yes, exactly.
Like that? Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's very difficult to get this sound.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, and since you brought it up, I will use that as an opportunity to share this with you. Here's a common expression, and maybe this sounds crazy. All right. Okay, I'm writing it how it sounds. We have a kind of an expression, if I had my druthers. Sounds ridiculous, I realize that. If I had my druthers, it means simply, it's common to say I'd rather not, but you can say anything. If I had my druthers means if I have my choice, and then you would say what your choice was. If I had my druthers, I would prefer to go to Spain rather than go to North Korea. If I had my druthers, if I had my choice. And you're absolutely right, especially in conjunction with had, which is going to be reduced. If I had my, maybe or maybe not. I'd, well, yes, it would be used as a contraction. I had. I'd rather. It comes out pronounced like that. He's absolutely correct. Often in informal reduced speech, it's reduced. What it is it's reduced. Basically, you're changing that sound rather to an or closer to a schwa sound because you're reducing pronunciation. It's a reduced form, is what it is, plain and simple. So yeah, be aware of that. When you're listening to English, native speakers often do reduce this.
Because when I am trying to understand him, I often lost all the holy praise, and I said,
yeah.
I don't know.
It basically gets, you're right, reduced and joined to the nearby sounds to I'd rather. I'd rather. It's a reduced form. You know, it's one of those things like gonna instead of going to, and wanna instead of want to, druther. It's one of those. It belongs in that kind of family, I guess. Okay. A bit, all right, is less than quite, and quite is less than very. You know, they're degrees. The book's a bit boring. All right, that's obviously negative. The film was quite good. That's a little bit positive. She tells very funny stories. All right, very positive. A bit, pretty, and really are there. Okay, I have to say they're really common in spoken English. They're informal. They're a bit boring. See, they're so common and probably overused, frankly. Okay, it's worth noting a bit is used generally negative for negative sentences, negative ideas. They're used in front of negative adjectives, or often also negative adjectives with a negative prefix, like unhappy. He's a bit unhappy, a bit unmotivated, whatever. Okay, where I have a question. Who can tell me where does okay fit? It was okay. Where's okay on this list? It was okay. Well, it was an okay film. Okay is an adjective, but it kind of maybe sort of belongs, looking at this group, kind of in the middle. Okay. Anyway, it's okay. Yeah, don't use these in writing, by the way. Pretty, really, bit. Try to avoid this in writing because they are extremely informal and definitely much more used for speaking. Rather, some as an adverb in the middle, like quite, fairly. We often use rather. Here's another point, Claudio. We often use rather when something's a little bit of a surprise for us. For example, her cooking is rather good, actually. Couldn't believe it. Okay, I heard bad reviews about the movie, but I thought it was rather good. So often used when something is a surprise or as a contrast. When we're contrasting information, this is when we tend to use rather. Like the next example. People don't usually like factories, but I think they're rather interesting places. So you might often see it with a contrasting, but or something like that. Incredibly, extremely, goes without saying. They're very strong, extremely busy, incredibly tired. All right. that's fairly obvious. Okay. It's Jose is asking if I can send you the PDF files. Well, Jose, this particular PDF file is completely enormous, and no, I can't. I cannot. However, if you would like to take a one-on-one private class, that could be managed. But no, this is not something I can load up in a class description because it is absolutely huge. Okay. Quick note before you guys start practicing. A couple other adverbs worth noting. It's almost or nearly 5 o'clock, so we use these very commonly. I almost fell down the hole, or I nearly fell down the hole. Okay, you know, means close to. And then, of course, we have, last of all, hardly. I hardly had anything to eat for lunch. Almost nothing. She could hardly walk. It was very difficult to walk. We use this in different ways. Sometimes we use this just as a reply, as a sarcastic no reply. Oh, I heard that you were up for promotion, and you might reply, hardly. As it's a kind of a sarcastic way to say no, not at all. Okay. Any more questions about this stuff? We may get into. I may ask you some questions about adverbs of degree, but let's go back to adverbs of frequency. Again, I remind you, we're going to practice now before the main verb, unless you're going to use the main verb to be, and then it will follow. She is often late. They were sometimes tired. They were never there. Okay. I'm going to change up my information here. And I'm sick of talking, so time for you guys to talk. Just so you can, these are all mixed up here. Hang on. Well, okay. How often do you? I've got a lot of things here, but I'm gonna kind of go in order so you can think about your answer a little bit, or except for the person who goes first, which is poor Emily. Emily?
Oh, yeah.
Emily, how often do you?
Yes.
How often do you clean your bathroom?
Oh, I often clean my room in my springtime.
Okay, I asked about bathroom, but that's okay. I often clean my room, maybe especially in the springtime. Okay, especially in the springtime. You know what? I'm going to do something different here, so I don't have to type everything in the chat box. I'm actually going to take down this screen share, and I'm going to, so that I can write your sentences and you guys can see it. It's a better idea. Sorry about that. Give me half a second. So I'm actually going to ask you questions, and then I'll write your response so that we can look at it and dissect it, any problems together. And you can see that on the screen. Okay, hang on a second. So, wrong. Okay. Whoops. Sorry. Technical problem. I did something stupid there. Oh, okay. Okay. Why is it? Okay, here we go. Sorry. Oopsie. Juggling my screen share. All right, I'm just putting up a blank sheet of paper here, but because I want to write out what you say so we can look at it together. Heidi. Hi, Heidi.
Yeah.
Heidi, how often do you eat delicious Kobe beef?
Kobe beef.
Mmm.
I've never eaten delicious Kobe beef.
No way. Really?
Never.
Really?
Yeah, I can't afford to pay over 30, no, not $30, no, $300.
Okay. $300 for what? Is
For
300
one
a
person.
kilo? For one person?
Yeah,
For one meal?
yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Is it that expensive? Okay. Well, that's wow. Okay. Good sentence structure. You got your adverb of frequency in front of the verb, and she has used a present perfect structure. Have eaten. Very good. This is going to be common, of course, to reply with a present perfect tense when somebody asks how often you do something. All right. So as Heidi did, please answer the question with an adverb of frequency, and then give me a little bit of extra information, like why or why not. Why do you do it that often or not that often? Okay. Oscar.
Yes.
Oscar, how often do you relax with a book?
Excuse me. Relax. Sorry.
Relax and read a book.
Read the
How
book.
often are you able to relax with a book to read? The indication when I say relax with a book is that you're not reading because you need to read something for work or read something, to study, but just for entertainment. So
Okay.
how often do you have a chance to relax with a book?
I sometimes read a book in a weekend.
Okay. Oops. Okay, very good. Okay, but this is, you pronounced it like read, which would be past tense. You can use read, present tense. Okay, I sometimes read a book on the weekend. All right, just a reminder, if we wanted to, this is one of the adverbs of frequency. Nothing wrong with this, Oscar. But if you wanted to, you could use a different placement. Sometimes I read a book on the weekend, or even, whoops, I read a book on the weekend sometimes. Sometimes I read a book on the weekend. Note my intonation, however, when my pitch sounds when I say sometimes I read a book on the weekend, or I read a book on the weekend sometimes. Notice how different sometimes sounds when it starts the sentence. Sometimes I read a book on the weekend, and I read a book on the weekend sometimes, very low, because it's ending the sentence.
Okay.
Another thing that happens to your pronunciation when you're using these adverbs of frequency. Thanks, Oscar. Great.
Yes, okay.
Thank you. Javier, excuse me. Javier, how often do you play sports?
Well, I think seldom time. It's rarely that I practice a sport. Probably 1 or 2 times a year.
Okay. What was it? Did you say sometimes or seldom times?
Seldom times. Seldom time.
Okay, well, let's look at that. That, like this, and then, was that it?
Yes.
Maybe once, twice a
Twice a
year.
year. Yes,
Okay.
twice a year.
All right. Let's look at this. Okay. Not going to quite work. If you remember, we can move sometimes and often. We can move those around, and occasionally, sometimes, occasionally, and often. We can move those around in the sentence, but the other adverbs need to be in front of the verb. So for starters, I need to move your subject noun to the beginning.
Okay, I seldom time. Thanks.
And the other thing is, you don't, Javier, you don't need times. This doesn't really work. I seldom times play sports. You just get rid of that. I seldom play sports.
I seldom play sports.
Okay. I do like this little addition of information. He's added another clause, maybe once or twice a year. This is great. Okay, that's great. And this is very common for English speakers. We will add a little, I don't know, confirmation information or a little more detail to express what we mean by seldom. Because seldom is very indefinite, you know. Is that 3 times, 4 times, 6 times? Of course, that's totally relative to what the speaker thinks. So it's very common when using something like this to actually add another clause with some specifics. So I like that. That's good.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Javier.
Welcome.
Cesar.
Yes.
Cesar, how often do you drink wine?
Occasionally I drink wine. I prefer another drinks.
Okay, occasionally can be moved around, so can be misspelled too. Whoops. How did I occasionally? Oops. Sorry about that. Occasionally I misspell occasionally.
Occasionally.
Yeah, I misspell that word. Okay. Occasionally I drink wine, and then you had a period. I prefer. What did you say?
Another, I said.
Another.
Drinks.
Okay. All right. All right. Wait a second. Occasionally I drink wine. I have no problem with this. It is a complete sentence. I have no problem that you're making 2 complete sentences, really, but I do have a problem with this. Another drinks. This is very important for all you guys. Another one thing. Another drink. I'll have another drink, bartender. Other drinks. So, Cesar, you should say other drinks. Plural. Other is always followed by plural. Other people say, okay, another person said. Get it? Another, singular, other, plural. One other thing. It would be very common here, because you obviously have contrasting information, which again is very common with adverbs of frequency. It's very common to present contrasting information for something that you don't do often, especially. It would be very normal to make a compound sentence here, like this. Occasionally I drink wine, however, I prefer other drinks. Wait, I don't think I even need a... I don't need a comma there. Sorry. It would be very normal to combine those two ideas into one sentence with transitional word to show. So this actually helps the listener understand this is contrasting information. Okay, Cesar? Thank you. Good job.
Okay, teacher.
All right, cool. Thank you. MacGyver?
Hi.
Hi. MacGyver, how often do you do the grocery shopping?
Oh, just sometimes. Sometimes I I do the shopping in my house.
Okay. 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 I have a couple things to say. No surprise. In spoken English, even though this really is not a sentence. However, it would be fairly normal to actually, if I want to be true to what MacGyver he said, oh, whoops, caps lock. Oh, sometimes. Okay, he was, I don't know, surprised by my question. This is an interjection or an expletive, just sometimes. This is normal, and this is okay in spoken English to do this, especially since he has just sometimes, okay. Okay to do this. It's not a complete sentence it's nowhere near a complete sentence, but it is an acceptable interjection, and it seems quite normal. So that's totally cool to do that. Sometimes, okay, we know that we can move sometimes, occasionally, and often around in the sentence, so it's okay here in the front. I do the shopping. Good choice of verb. You do the shopping. That is correct. Do usually often precedes a gerund. But one question, MacGyver. I like everything, but if you do the shopping in your house, do you live in a supermarket?
No, no.
You do not. Want to confirm that? That would be kind of cool. You know, maybe it would be better to say for my house. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Right. We use for as a preposition to show benefit. To the benefit, okay, or to benefit your house, or for the purpose of. All right, so that fits a little better, I think. All right, great job. Okay, thank you. Let's see here, Jose. Jose, how often do you listen to music? Jose, you there? Jose, are you there? Are you with us? Okay, well, maybe we can come back to Jose. Claudio, how about you? How often do you listen to music?
Oh, frequently. Okay. Probably every day. I can't live without music.
Okay.
I have to hear some song every day, especially to learn English.
Okay. I frequently. Well, you didn't really give me a sentence. You again. You gave me more like an expletive.
Frequently, I have to to listen some song to to stay learning English?
Frequently, okay, we didn't mention this previously in class. We mentioned how sometimes, occasionally, and often can be moved around. Frequently, I guess this is another one that can be moved around. Okay, frequently I have to listen to some sounds. Okay, wait a minute. I guess we're okay with placement of frequently. Can we,
Occasionally,
whoa. Okay. I frequently have, now, where else can we put this? Experiment. Because we have something interesting. We've got a modal, have to. Actually, to make this clearer, I want to show something, so I'm going to change this. I just want to change it just so that we understand that have to is a phrasal modal, but must is another modal. Frequently, I must listen to blah, blah, blah. We'll get to the other end of the sentence. I just want to deal with this first. I frequently must listen. Can we do that? I must frequently listen. Can we? What do we do with placement of an adverb when we're using a modal? That's the idea I want to get across. I frequently must listen. Yeah, seems okay to me. Whoopsie. I must frequently listen. Okay. I must listen frequently. I guess it could go. Pretty much anywhere.
What the most common? Okay.
What's that?
Before. What the most common? Before or after? I frequently must listen, or I must frequently listen.
Let's choose another adverb. Okay. Let's frequently, because frequently belongs with occasionally and sometimes and often. You can move them around. Let's choose one. Let's choose a different one. Okay. Let's play. Let's experiment here. Always I must listen. That is not going to work. Okay. I always must listen. No good. No good. I must always listen. There we go. Notice, as we said in the very beginning, although that we have those adverbs we can move around, frequently I can move it around, really. But even when we're using a modal, must, should, could, would, okay, well, modals of obligation, have to, must, should, okay. For the other adverbs, the placement should be here. I must always listen to some sound. I must always listen to my mother, like that. It would be very weird. It doesn't work at all. Placed before the subject or after the subject, it doesn't even make sense. If I move it, well, let's see. Okay, let's move it again. See what happens. Dun, dun, dun. Why are you doing this to me? Come on. Okay, I must listen. What if I put it here? I must listen always. Changes the meaning. This is what I was talking about earlier. This is slightly different. I must always listen. I must listen always.
Listen music to practice Spanish.
Frankly, it doesn't really work here. When we're talking about using a modal, it really is the same rule. It's going to go in front of the verb the modal's working with. Modals are kind of work like auxiliaries, and they follow a lot of the same grammatical rules. And here I think we can follow the same grammatical rule. I must always listen, okay, to some sounds. Here we have he's used an adverb of degree. Now I'm okay with this, but the last prepositional phrase here, to stay learning English, while grammatically it is correct, it's just not a very good collocation. It sounds odd to the English ear because we just don't use stay learning ever. How about this? Continue learning. That's very common. It's very normal to continue learning. Stay learning. Stay does not go with a gerund. Stay running. I'm gonna stay running. Stay running. Hour.
Could I use keep? To keep?
Yeah. Absolutely. That may be even more common or normal.
Okay. To keep
is frequently with a gerund. Keep studying. Keep running. Yeah. It's frequently followed by an ing. So yeah, that works frequently. Okay. Keiko, what can we learn from you? Keiko, how often do you cook meals?
I frequently cook my meals. Now and then I have to make my own food, to do my own food. To make.
I have to. What is your verb?
To cook my own food.
Okay. All right. Well, what you got here is two sentences that are completely grammatically correct, and the sentence structure is correct, but the context is contradictory. Okay. I frequently cook my meals. That means quite a lot. That's on one end of the spectrum. Now and then, basically, that kind of fits with occasionally.
Okay, teacher.
Okay, now, good phrase though. Thank you for introducing it to the class. Yes, we definitely use this. Now and then, well, let's talk about that. Now and then means not with any kind of pattern. Very similar, actually, to occasionally. Occasionally, or now and then, it doesn't mean like once a month, really. It means, we use it also to mean like you go to the movies twice in May, not at all in June, 3 times in July, 6 times in August, never in September. Okay, that's really occasionally or now and then. You may also hear English speakers use this phrase, which seems very weird, but I want to introduce it to you. Every now and again. I know, it's not even logical. Every now and again, I like to smoke a cigar, for example. Now, what does that mean? And I could definitely use this. This is very true for me. Every now and again, I like to smoke a cigar. I do. But every now and again is similar to now and then or occasionally, but every now and again would probably mean like once every 3 years or 5 years. Okay? Probably had 2 or 3 cigars in the last 10 years. All right?
Okay, I could change frequently for occasionally.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Occasionally, which I still can't spell.
Sorry, Oakley. Maybe I lost something about them, but what do you mean in the now and then? Now and then, and every now and again, now and again, now
Well,
and
now,
then.
as Keiko just changed it, these are compatible. Occasionally, I cook my meals now and then. These are pretty much, they go together. They pretty much same meaning. This, all right, okay, another single word.
Sometimes, now and then means sometimes. Could I say?
You could also use infrequently.
Less than sometimes.
Sometimes is probably more. Sometimes kind of fits right in the middle of that scale from always to never. Sometimes is a vaguely right in the middle.
And now and again, how long time is now and again?
This is probably closer. If I'm going to pick out one word adverb.
Less than now and then. So
Yeah.
now and then I can swim, but every now and again I can swim with a bad weather. That's it.
Okay. There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
I give that one to you. That's it. That sounds good. Okay, just because we're running out of time, who can tell me what this means? Once in a blue moon. How often do I like to do it? I'll throw a couple idiomatic. Once in a blue moon, I eat Kobe beef. No, I don't. How often is once in a blue moon? Anybody?
Rarely, hardly.
Hardly ever. Yeah, hardly ever.
Hardly ever.
Okay.
Seldom.
Seldom. Okay, seldom. Right? Hardly ever is even better. Okay, once in a blue moon. Or how about when somebody says they haven't done something, haven't, whatever. Maybe. Okay. Well, I'll give you. Seen you in ages. All right. I haven't seen you in ages. So this phrase here. How often would that be? Emily.
Maybe sometimes.
Sometime. Yeah. Okay. Well, of course, it's an indefinite adverb of frequency in ages. Once in a blue moon is really rarely or hardly ever. I haven't seen you in ages. Of course, this is up to what is the speaker considered to be ages, but maybe I haven't seen you, Emily, in 5 years. But maybe not. Maybe if it's somebody you saw every day and then you haven't seen them for 3 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. So it's really hard to say. Depends on the history, I guess. Another one, this is very American. In a coon's age. That's a raccoon, by the way. I haven't seen you in a coon's age. Very American. No Brit would even... I seriously don't think they would know what I meant. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody know any others expressions that we use to mean a period of time?
Periodically.
Sorry? Sorry?
Periodically.
Very what? Oddly? Missed that. I don't know that. One more time? I was getting an echo.
Periodically.
Occasionally, maybe.
I don't know oddly. I don't know.
Periodically.
Periodically. Okay, the formal word. All right. Periodically, unlike occasionally or every now and again, means on a regular type schedule. Periodically. Okay. Yes. All right. Okay. Anyway, we are definitely out of time. Hopefully, maybe picked up a little vocabulary and learned a little bit about adverbs of frequency. Thank you very much, everyone. See you guys again next time here on Verbling. Bye.
Bye.